Director and Officer of the British American Business Council of New England. And on behalf of Bingham and the BABCNE, I'm very pleased to welcome everyone here tonight. So innovation is a buzzword around Boston. Our innovation district is touted as a model for catalyzing business growth. And while we are all rightly proud of what has been going on here in Boston, and there is also a palpable excitement about the direction we're headed, tonight is about looking abroad. Who else is breaking new ground? What can we learn from them? And what opportunities are there in these countries for businesses based in New England? Our guide for this global tour tonight is George Donnelly, whom we are very glad to welcome back to Bingham. The last time he was here, he moderated a very interesting panel discussion that followed an address by the British ambassador to the U.S., Sir Peter Westmacott. Many of you know George as the former executive editor of the Boston Business Journal, where he worked for approximately 14 years. Presently, he's teaching at Suffolk and working on a book on the Boston economy. Thank you, George, for joining us this evening and moderating our program.
Well, good evening, everyone. Let's see if I can get audio here. Thank you, Peter, and thanks to Bingham for hosting tonight. I am so pleased to be here, for this is quite an amazing assemblage. Congrats to Ursula at the British American Business Council and Consul General Susie Kitchens for bringing together everybody this evening. Getting such a great representation here is in itself, I think, brilliant diplomacy. So this event says something, just having an event like this says something very profound about Boston. In the space of, I think, a relatively few years, Boston has gone from more or less province, now albeit a very charming one, to an international magnet, a true player on the international scene. You see it in the universities, where students from all over the world are flocking here. In the last 5 years, we have seen nearly a 50% increase in the number of foreign students coming here. International capital is scooping up Boston real estate, both residential and commercial. And of course, companies from all over the world are looking to gain a foothold here. I like to say that Boston is one of those winners in globalism, and that's because globalism ultimately rewards intellectual capital, and that's what Boston has in abundance. But as Peter said, we know the resources Boston brings to the table. Tonight, we'll focus on what 9 countries have to offer Boston companies looking for opportunities in new markets. So tonight is a pitch fest, so to speak. We'll hear from consul generals, and in the case of Korea, we're especially honored to have Ambassador Ohm here. The format is we're going to hear from individual countries, representatives of individual countries, one at a time in groups of 3, with questions after the 3rd and the 6th, and then the final presenter. And so it fell to me to come up with an order, and naturally I consulted the UN to figure out just who should go first. And so we have an order here which I discussed with our diplomats before we began tonight's proceedings. So obviously with 9 presenters, timing is something that we're going to try to keep moving as quickly as possible. One of my goals tonight is not to start an international incident. So, but it's extremely exciting to have and to hear from such a broad array of representatives, and I think more than anything, I'm excited about what I'm going to learn tonight. So the order is, the first group is going to be Canada, Korea, and France. And representing Canada is the Acting Consul General, Aaron Annable. Aaron, we'll start with you. Welcome, Aaron.
Thanks very much. It's great to see so many of you out. It's my first elevator pitch, so please go easy on me. So the traditional image that many people have of Canada is one of moose, mountains, and Mounties. You all know these images. And while we cherish these icons, the reality is far more diverse and innovative. Canada invests in approximately $30 billion annually in R&D, and while approximately 50% of this investment is deployed in industry, a large proportion also goes to the academic sector, where it fosters innovation and knowledge creation. In fact, Canada is the G7 leader in R&D expenditures per GDP in the higher education sector. It is also home to a world-class education system that includes 90 universities. Canada generates about 4% of global knowledge, despite accounting for just 0.5% of the world's population. Our top research and innovation sector strengths include environment, energy, life sciences, ICTs, and Arctic-related technologies. For example, given our abundant supply of natural resources, Canada is recognized as a leading authority in the areas of energy innovation and resources extraction. We are investing massively in carbon sequestration technologies and renewable energy development that will help reduce our carbon footprint. Areas of green technology expertise include water and watershed infrastructure, hydroelectric power, that is abundant, affordable hydropower, ocean and tidal energy, wind, and bioenergy. We're also recognized as a global leader in the health and life sciences area. Areas of strength within the life sciences sector include genomics, neuroscience, medical imaging, and health IT. Our top 3 life sciences clusters are located in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, where our largest universities, hospitals, and industry are concentrated. Given the physical vastness of our country, we need to pool our research resources to be competitive on the global map. So Canada has created network centers of excellence, which foster multidisciplinary partnerships between academia, government, not-for-profit organizations in focused areas. There are currently 14 networks that cover themes such as stem cells, photonics, geomatics, and Arctic research. We've also established 20 centers of excellence for commercialization and research. And while the center's individual focuses are varied, they all have the same goal, to put research to work. More recently, we've established the Canada First Research Excellence Fund, which is $1.5 billion over the next decade to help Canadian post-secondary institutions excel globally in research areas that create long-term advantages. Our innovation system is highly connected to the world. Canada currently has 12 S&T agreements and arrangements with priority markets, including China, India, Brazil, Japan, and the EU. Our government is also investing in accelerating access to global markets and growth for innovative Canadian companies. As part of this effort, we've established 12 Canadian technology accelerators, or CTAs, around the world, including 7 here in the US. The CTA Boston was established right here at Cambridge Innovation Center in April 2013. It's a 4-month program for Canadian entrepreneurs interested in accelerating their growth in the region. It provides companies with a space at the CIC, a mentor team, a pitch coach, access to local industry resources, and the ability to share ideas and technology. Given that Massachusetts is a world-renowned hub of innovation, setting up shop here was a no-brainer for us. Over 40 Canadian companies have taken advantage of this facility since its inception, and the interest is growing. Why should Massachusetts care about our accelerator? Because not only are we exposing these startups to this global innovation hub, but we're bringing their knowledge, expertise, and cutting-edge technologies right here to your doorstep. To sum up, aside from being the Bay State's largest foreign export market and a key strategic energy partner, Canada is a world leader in science, technology, and innovation, and is very eager to deepen partnerships and knowledge flows with partners both here and from around the world. We're pleased to be doing so with our close partners at the New England Canada Business Council, the Canadian Entrepreneurs in New England, and others right here in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Next, we'll hear from Ambassador Song Jong Om. from the Republic of Korea. Ambassador.
It is my great pleasure to speak with you. I like to be a good student to observe my time limit, but I'm very happy to speak with the Korean economic agenda today. I say that the Korea's global innovation initiative Korea, we think that the creative economy is very important for our economic orientation in the future. I simply put, the creative economy means the innovation of science and technology, and especially information technology, which Korea is very much interested in the comparative advantage. Now, Korean government, we designate creative economy town, a geographical location, and each creative economy town, we set up the innovation center. Let me show you the Korea. It's geographically not big, but very smart, and we have a big plan. There is 17 creative economy town and innovation center, each region. You may know that some companies such as CJ, Hanjin, LG, Hanwha, SK, Hyosung, Hyundai, Naver, KT, Samsung, Hyundai, again, and Lotte, Doosan, each region like this. We have a partnership with these companies and region. And we think that we have a lot of cooperation in potential areas in future between New England and Korea. We have Korea-American Bioindustry Council, Korea-American Scientists and Engineers Association, Korean-American Society Biotechnology and Pharmaceuticals, and New England Bioscience Society. And in Boston, we have some companies like Continuous Technology, Genosco, PCL USA, Sleep Technology, Samsung. And from Korea to Boston, IDG Ventures, Seoul Life Science Fund, and others. We believe that New England and Korea will be a partner for future growth. This is Korea and New England and Boston. Between ourselves, we can have some barriers, perhaps such as culture, customs, language, and management style. But this kind of barriers can be lowered by innovative Korean entrepreneurs in Boston. And New England and Korea, we can have a good partnership for innovation in the future. Who can be a partner for innovation? Anyone interested in the very highly productive workforce? Anyone interested in investing in Asia? And the best broadband wired country in the world is Korea. And anyone interested in the long-term returns, good returns on investment? And what sectors? Biotech, clean tech, genomics, internet manufacturing, media, pharmaceutical technology, telecommunications. You know very well about that. And you can contact with government and private Korean networks here. Contact Korean Consuls General in Boston or Korea American Bioindustry Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Now, the third in our first group will be Fabien Fichy, Consul General, France. Fabien? And I should say, after Fabien speaks, we'll please have some questions ready for our first three presenters. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Bonsoir. In order to develop innovation, you need smart people, the right partners, and a supportive environment. That's what you have here in Boston, and I'm going to show you that's what we also have in France. So first, let's start with smart people. What do you need? You need, obviously, researchers and engineers. We have in France very selective engineer curricula. So our engineers are very strong and also very creative, as shown in some of the figures that you can see over there. Prizes and also a very important number of international patents filed. You need also, because we live in a digital economy, you need obviously software developers and coders. As everywhere, there is a very strong demand. But we have developed new approaches in France to increase the supplies of software developers. New approaches such as the École 42, or School 42. It's a new endeavor. It's a private public partnership. It's free. You don't need a degree to go to that school just to be motivated. The teaching is community-based with a very hands-on and project-oriented approach. Do you need managers? Yes. Well, that's a good news because in France you have, according to the Financial Times, 7 among the 20 best or top world business schools and 17 among the 70 best business schools in the world. And on top of that, because we live in a global economy, you need all those people to have a very international mindset. And France is third in the world in attracting foreign students, more than 300,000. And also a lot of French universities have developed built-in or embedded study abroad programs. Just to take the example of my alma mater, Sciences Po, if you want to graduate from Sciences Po, you have to spend 1 year abroad. It's compulsory. If you don't do it, you cannot graduate. So I guess now you have your team, so you need also partners for innovation. In France, we can offer you a lot of global companies with which you can have R&D funding, joint development, provision of a sales platform, or even in-house incubators. We also have to offer you big research institutions because you're not going to have a particular accelerator in your garage. So one of the examples is the French Agency for Nuclear and Alternative Energies. It has world-class and one-of-a-kind facilities for physics, computation, imaging, or nanotech. And this can give what you have on the right side over there, which is called Neurospin. It's a unique, well, it's a high magnetic field MRI, not the kind of thing you can have in a hospital, and it allows you to do completely mind-boggling new brain imagery. We also have a very good network of public hospitals. They are all connected so that you can have your clinical trials. Beyond that, you need also technological clusters because all these nice resources, they have to be easily accessible. So you have places like Paris-Saclay, which has been ranked among the top 8 clusters worldwide by the MIT Tech Review. And that's a place where you can find both Neurospin, the future headquarters of EDF, the major power company, and a lot of higher education institutions. And of course, you need also a rich ecosystem of startups, because the more the merrier. So France has the most, according to Eurostat, the most business startups in Europe, and it has ranked #1 for 4 years in a row in the Deloitte the Technology Fast-Growing Companies 500, with more than 86 French startups. And here you can see Criteo. They recorded a 200,000% growth a few years ago, and now they are in NASDAQ, as you can see. Now you have your team, you have the partners. You need also to have a supportive environment. And I know it's an important issue because we have very often complaints about that in France. You have a very supportive tax system for research in France, what we consider the best package in the OECD, but I know that my colleagues will disagree probably. But it's really good, and we have a lot of very positive feedback from companies about this research tax credit. We have also very simple procedures to create a business. This year, a young founder of several startups, both in France and in the Silicon Valley, came to the Harvard Business School and he said, it's very easy. He started by saying, it's very easy to create a startup now in France. And everybody laughed, but it was not a joke. That's true. And beyond that, you have also access to very nice financing for innovation, and we are doing a lot of efforts to decrease our tax burden. And I think I'm over, so I will just show you this last slide, just to show that we do a lot also here in Boston. We have nice programs for startups going to France or French startups coming to the US, and we will work with a lot of partners, and I'm ready to take your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fabian. Okay, so you heard from our first three. Do we have any questions from anyone in the audience? Ma'am. We didn't
Hi.
plant this question, by the way.
Pardon me?
We didn't plant this question, by the way.
No, not planted. Well, thank you all very much for being here. My name is Ellen Keefe. And I'm just curious in terms of France, because they've been in the paper quite a bit in terms of ethnic issues and some problems and people of different ethnicities going to visit. And I just thought maybe you would address some of the concerns that we've been hearing about.
What kind of concerns?
Just different ethnic groups. Jewish people in particular was one of the groups that was targeted and mentioned, along with other groups as well. I was wondering if there's something you can address with that.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Should I answer now, or should I take
Can
more?
you be heard from there? Why don't you try?
Yeah. Well, I think that I've seen some articles recently, indeed, about growing anti-Semitism in France. I think it's unfortunately not specific to France, but something what we see in Europe. I don't think, very frankly, that it's a growth or an increase in the anti-Semitic feelings in the population as a whole, but the fact that we have now some groups which are getting more radical. And what we have to do, and what we do very seriously, is just fighting those groups. The French government not only is very serious about protecting the French community, which, by the way, is the largest Jewish community in Europe. We have more, I think that's 700,000 Jewish people living in France now. But also we have developed an arsenal to fight, hatred, for example, online. We can ask, for example, internet providers, also to make this information or that kind of hatred speech unavailable to the public. So we take it very seriously, but I don't think it's an issue that is specific to France, very frankly.
Sir?
I have a question for the Canadian Consul General. With the increase in electric rates here in Boston, and one of the complaints is we can't get enough natural gas because we can't build pipelines in here. I know that you have a lot of hydropower, and there's been an emphasis on having a northern corridor where that power can come down through New England. Is that not in my backyard still holding this up, or do you see this extra power coming down here?
We saw some real momentum, and I would say even a momentous discussion that took place this summer that could potentially involve energy collaboration among 6 states and 4 provinces. That did kind of slow a little bit. I would suggest maybe as politics sort of gain the spotlight here. But yeah, I do think these conversations are going to pick up. There are no less than 4 proposed hydroelectric projects that will cross the border. But you're absolutely right. There's going to need to be new infrastructure, and it's going to need to be built somewhere. And that's a challenge that I think New Englanders are going to have to address. But we really see Eastern Canada as playing a strategic role in helping address the soaring electricity costs here.
Sir?
My name is Gregor Kivenzer, and I have a question for Ambassador Ohm. I saw in your presentation an interesting thing. When you talk about technology, you spoke about the necessity of happiness of the public, which is not a common thing. And I understand that this is part of the Korean culture. And when you mentioned on another slide that culture is one of the barriers for foreign direct investment, it was also expected. But I would like to ask you, what in your mind could be the most important barrier in terms of the cultural differences when American companies collaborate with Korean companies? Because I had Samsung and Hyundai as my customers in the past, and I know that there are differences, but would like to listen to you.
Mr. Ambassador, why don't you come up here so you can be heard? Because I don't think there's a mic there for you.
Okay. Thank you for your very interesting question. First of all, happiness, which means that our idea is that our economic success, more jobs, is very important in our economic agenda of government. So our president say that happiness, to people make happiness, we have to create more jobs. And the creative economy is key to make more jobs available. And with regard to the cultural barrier, I think as Asian countries, our way of life, way of thinking is a little distant from from the United States. For example, I think our language is also play a role of the difference of our ideas. But our tradition is some sort of Confucianism. This is very, that is the relationship between young people and older people. Their etiquette is very important. So in the United States, it's a very egalitarian democratic society. Korea is also a democratic society, but we have a little different views, social views. So I think, but many Koreans now, we understand we have a more education system like United States and Europe. So I think we are very open-minded and liberal when we have to deal with the business affairs. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to our fourth presenter, and that will be Daniel Hernandez, the Consul General of Mexico. Mr. Hernandez, come on up.
Thank you. I'm here just to tell you we're not just about tequila, great food, and wonderful vacation locations. We're also about innovation, science, technology, industry. Mexico is a $1.3 trillion economy. Few people know that. We have $5 billion in trade just with the United States, with Massachusetts, and $500 billion of trade with the United States. It's a manufacturing-based economy, not a commodities one like the rest of Latin America. This is what distinguishes us from our region. We are also an economy that is export-based, while at the same time we exhibit a very fast-growing domestic market. Innovation, research, development cut across all major industries, creating clusters throughout their production and distribution chains. And what I'm trying to share with you here is how across disciplines and throughout the Mexican territory this is occurring. The aerospace industry comprises of 287 companies employing 32,000 high-level professionals that manufacture, maintain, repair, customize, engineer, design, and provide auxiliary services for commercial and military aircraft. The strengths of our aerospace industry are logistics, experience, reliability, competitive costs, innovation, talent, and certified quality. In Mexico, medical devices are categorized as class 1, 2, 3, based on the risk involved in their use. For more information on that, I brought some handouts that give detail about this. Production in medical devices was $8 billion in 2012. That year, exports were valued at more than $6 billion, ranking us as the 10th largest medical device exporter globally, the largest in Latin America, and the leading supplier to the United States. The strengths of Mexico's medical device industry are human capital and our competitive costs. Drugs, vaccines and anti-serums, vitamins, pharmaceutical preparations for veterinary use, and other products comprise our pharmaceutical industry, which is made up of 678 economic units. The industry in Mexico produced over $10 billion in 2012. The strengths of this industry in our country are manufacturing costs, market size, regulatory system, and the export platform. Automobiles. In 2013, the automaker and auto part industries accounted for approximately 2.6% of the country's GDP and 15% of its manufacturing GDP. Light vehicle production reached 3 million units in 2013, hitting a new record for assemblers in Mexico. Heavy vehicle industry recorded a production of 136,000 units that same year. The strengths of our automotive industry in Mexico are competitive cost, experience, wide supply network, and talent. And I would stress talent. We're now nationwide and in all the fields graduating over 100,000 engineers in the country. Mexico is a leader in IT and BPO industry. It is ranked the 6th most attractive destination to locate global services, including information technology, outsourcing, and business processing outsourcing, BPOs, as well as contact and call centers. Mexico's IT services and BPO market is valued at $10.5 billion in 2012 and has been growing ever since. Mexico has recorded an 8.9% annual average increase during the 2006 and 2012 period in the IT, BPO, and software market. The strengths of the IT services and BPO industry in Mexico are its infrastructure, again, talent, and its competitive costs. As you see, as a manufacturing-based economy with a very fast-growing venture capital and startup ecosystem and a solid institutional structure, science and technology, research and development cut across industries, spreads throughout the country, providing the nation with a very diverse ambience for innovation and growth in the knowledge economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Next, we'll hear from Susie Kitchens, Consul General from the UK. Susie.
I haven't started yet, but I just want to note what a stretch it is for us as diplomats not to all stand here and say what a pleasure it is to be here this evening. The UK has long been a hub of science, finance and commerce, shaping global trends. In science, the UK has the second highest total of Nobel Prizes and produces more citations per dollar of public funding than any of our major competitors. In finance, London has been the world's financial centre since the 16th century and ranked first in the 2013 Global Financial Centres Index. 32 of Europe's top economies are from the UK. And we have certainly embraced commerce. British shoppers spend more per capita online than any other nation. Today, the British government supports a network of world-leading innovation centres called Catapults, bringing together the best of British businesses, scientists and engineers. The Catapults will transform high-potential ideas and satellite applications for renewable energy, future cities, cell therapies, into new products and services. We see successful clusters around the UK, supported by R&D embed in fast-growth startups and disruptive technology. 75% of global R&D for motorsports takes place around Oxford, where 8 of the 11 Formula One teams live. Media City in Manchester, home to the BBC, will be the largest purpose-built media and digital hub in Europe. Here east is the up-and-coming creative makerspace in the repurposed 2012 Olympic Park, with unrivaled data and connectivity infrastructure. The UK recognises the need to attract and develop entrepreneurs to make sense of all this innovation capacity. We grow our own. The UK has over 300 business incubators and a booming industry in accelerator programmes. Mass Challenge is launching in London. Techstars, the Startup Institute, Entrepreneur First and Tech Hub are transforming how we train and mentor entrepreneurs. And we import them. The UK imposes the fewest barriers to entry for entrepreneurs in the world. International innovators trust the British IP system. We've introduced a special visa for entrepreneurs. And they come. Maybe not for the British cuisine, but our innovators are adding seasoning there too. 7,000 new food and drink products were added to the supermarket shelves and food truck menus of Britain. 32.9 million overseas visitors came to the UK last year. London is the most international city in the world. And this is an international game. Together, the UK and Massachusetts lead the world in education and life sciences. All of the world's top 6 research universities are either here in Massachusetts or in the UK, spinning out companies all the time. More than 435,000 international students come to the UK each year, over 10% of these from the US. US-UK higher education cooperation is worth $1.5 billion. Our rich partnership in life sciences continues to unlock medical and commercial opportunities. The UK's National Health Service is the world's largest integrated health system, presenting a unique resource for clinical trials. No wonder, therefore, 17 of the 20 biggest pharma companies base their research and development in the UK, and 1 in 7 medicines used today originate from Britain. With 5 direct flights per day linking Boston and London, physical connectivity is as strong as the scientific, educational, commercial and historic links we enjoy. So we've covered finance and food, shopping and study, clinical trials and maker spaces. I'm the representative for the UK, and that is where the innovative action is. Thank you.
Our next presenter from Japan, it's Tsutomu Himeno, General Counsel. Mr. Himeno?
I hope I can use this. This one? I cannot find my presentation. Okay. How can I use the finger? Can anybody help me to study? Do you know how to start this? Oh, so I have to use this? Yeah, no, the one on the top. Okay. No, should be okay. Is it coming? I think so. Yeah. Happy birthday to you. Okay. Thank you for your patience, and I hope I can use this machine right. Well, I'm delighted, and I like to show you, including this one, I think 8 slides. So start with this one, innovation opportunities in Japan. We need your help to energize the Japanese economy this is a win-win proposal. Our stock prices have gone up, but we still have many challenges. And this is the opportunity for you to invest before other people will have taken all the fruits. It is reported now, coming out from Japan, our Prime Minister is going to dissolve our parliament at the beginning of December, and the voting date may be 14th or 21st of December. You wonder why he's doing this in the middle of challenges he has to face. But that is because he considers he needs to get a mandate again to push forward with his reforms, because there is no alternative. And it is my job in Boston to encourage you, to be part of a success story, big experiment which will succeed. So I cannot speak many things now, so please remember me and also my friend here. I go by Tom for short, taking 3 letters. My family name Himeno is he may know, so he may know something. And this is, so this is Mari. Please step forward. Mari Fuji, she just arrived about a week ago. He's on secondment from the organization JETRO, Japan External Trade Organization. The fact that she is here with me and in Boston shows the great interest in Japan to work together. Now, moving on, I hope, to the, I wanted to show you many examples, but I have to limit myself to 3 examples. Not only because of the time constraints, but because I cannot remember more than 3. So this is one example. Those people who know this man is a Nobel Prize laureate of 2012, researcher of iPS, which is induced pluripotent stem cells, where you can change the stems into all sorts of parts of your body. And this has gone out of the laboratory in September this year. The first ever world real surgery happened for the eye retina of an old lady in Japan, and she is doing well. And many more follow. Another example, going far away, the asteroid explorer Hayabusa 1, which left Japan in 2003 and reached the asteroid, the first experiment outside of the gravity of the Earth. And the machine succeeded in landing, getting samples, came back. This month, end of this month, November the 30th, the second, Hayabusa 2, will be launched. So more will follow. Next example, robotics. Japan is full of robots. I don't feel like a robot, but lots of robots. Some people choose different ways. Some people are very interested in doing it, humanoid robots. And this is a good example of university students-based research, which ran the competition organized by the Department of Defense, and they were by far the top team. However, unfortunately, because of the success, somebody called Google decided to buy it. So, they are out of my control. But nevertheless, this is a success story. Now, policies. There are 3 slides. I will not bore you with all the details, but limited to 3 points. First about this. This is, let me say, national project type of policies. Government has gone in very big to support science and technology. I just like to mention the second one. It's called impact. The word is disruptive technologies. And one example is to encourage brain research. Another example is to encourage robots to help people to deal with hard labor, including carrying elderly. I will move on because of time. Second policy is regional. Although the title says National Strategic Special Zones, but this is a plan to give governors and mayors discretion freedom. And number three example, I put life science. So they're interesting examples. Finishing up, more is coming for supporting venture businesses. Second line, tax system. This is to enable funders to put 80% of investment as deductible expenses. And other examples follow. But I'm finishing up with a note that 2020, Tokyo will host Olympic Games, Paralympics. This is galvanizing many people to come up with innovative ideas. And you can take advantage of that together. And with that note, I'd like to show you, for those people who live here, there is a connection to 2024. So this is a connection, and I ask you, please remember me and Mary, and I'll be wearing this so you can find me afterwards. Thank you. I don't know how to close this.
Thank you, Tom.
Today, yes. Yeah, we had a
Thank you, Tom. And that was an absolute pitch also for Boston 2024. So questions for Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Kitchens, or Mr. Imono? Anyone? Well, okay, go ahead. This will be your. You've definitely reached your quota, but no one else has their hand up.
Okay, well, thank you. So this is for Ms. Kitchens for the UK. I just wanted to ask the question with the recent referendum with Scotland. Going forward, what do you see as relationship development between and with Scotland? That is, obviously continuing with the UK. Thank you.
Yeah, so the Scottish referendum took place in September. It got fairly close in the polling towards the end, but the ultimate result was pretty robust, a substantial 10-point vote in favour for Scotland staying part of the United Kingdom, keeping up hundreds of years of marriage between the northern part of our island and the rest of it. And it was a really robust exercise in democracy. We were asked to ask the question as a government. The government made it available for the people of Scotland to have their say. We believe as a government in self-determination, so it's absolutely right that we put that to the test when the question came up in our own country. I'm very pleased personally at the result. I think it was the right result. And it means that we can now put that issue away for what's described as a generation, perhaps a political generation, and move forward with what has been a very successful union within the United Kingdom that benefits all its constituent parts.
Let me ask a question, and this is really for any one of you that just presented. Massachusetts will soon have a new governor. Deval Patrick had quite a track record of visiting and encouraging international trade. What are your hopes and what advice, I suppose, would you give the new governor vis-a-vis international trade? Why don't we start with you, Mr. Hernandez?
I wouldn't presume to give him advice as such, but I would stress that what Governor Deval Patrick has done by engaging the world has been extremely successful for the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. There's several 100,000 jobs that depend just in trade with Mexico, the case of, in our case. And in the 3 years that I've been consul here, not because of my doing, but mostly because of what the business community has been doing, Mexico jumped from being the 6th to the 3rd trading partner of Massachusetts, up to $5 billion in trade. This is jobs for the people of Massachusetts. This is more exports. So engaging the world, engaging each other makes a lot of sense. But also follow and listen to what Governor Patrick is saying, in that it is not about what I can sell to you and you can sell to me. It's about what we can build together. That's the message of innovation and global engagement in innovation. And I think no city in the United States, really no city in the United States, is better positioned to take advantage of that than Boston, and it has been doing so, and hopefully the state of Massachusetts will continue to do so.
Thanks, Mr. Himeno? Himeno, sorry.
Well, thank you. Well, again, of course, I would not think of giving any advice. But what I like to emphasize to the governor-elect, the new governor, or anybody else in this room particularly is we can win a lot together, particularly, as I mentioned, life science. Japan is faced with a severe challenge of fast-aging population. But that also presents us with opportunities. Not only reducing cost, providing good medicine, medical equipment, these are very important, but also combining the life science with information technology, and we can not only attend to the elderly people in poor health, but also prevent them from getting sick. And that is more important. And that way we can save money and make everybody happier, and the community will thrive. And that is a broad life science initiative many people in Japan are dealing with, and I think we can work together.
Great. Just one comment about diplomacy and advice. I find it interesting, everyone's reticence to give advice on the panel. I guess it's a diplomatic thing. I give advice to politicians unsolicited every possible time I can. But thank you. So we have time for one more question, if there is one, for these three, and then we'll move on to our last three presenters. Anyone? All right.
Well, I'll answer the previous one.
Sure.
Get a go. So, yeah, I also wouldn't be shy in giving our new governor some advice. I would say be accessible. It's great the way that Governor Patrick has received our visitors. It makes a difference when business delegations come here to meet the representative of the state. To travel, Governor Patrick went to the UK twice with trade delegations, and to Israel twice. In his time, he's travelled a lot. That also makes a big difference. And my third point was that he should definitely promote the Transatlantic Trade Investment Partnership, the EU-US Free Trade Agreement, which is a real game changer for us and the US.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay. Our seventh presenter and our first of our last trio is Mr. Felix Mosner. He's the Consul General of Switzerland. Mr. Mosner.
Yes, that is you. That's me.
Buonasera, bonsoir, good evening, konbanwa. So it's a very big pleasure to be here and also say a few words about the Swiss innovation landscape. As you see, my name is Felix Mosner, and I have a double function. I'm the CEO of Swiss Next Boston, and at the same time, and this I take maybe 10% of my time, I'm also Consul of Switzerland. We have the Swiss Nexus around the world in 6 different locations. As you see here on the map, we started in Boston, then San Francisco, Singapore, Shanghai, Bangalore, and also in Brazil. And last year we also opened, from Boston, we opened an outpost in New York. Not the other way around. And our business model is very simple. We do public-private partnerships. And it's very easy. What we do every day, we connect the dots. So I would like to say a few words about facts on Switzerland. So there are many myths. You see many myths on this image. We are not only about beautiful sceneries or tourism, or we have stereotypes in eating a lot of chocolates or cheese and producing nice watches. There's much more behind it. So we constantly try to achieve things that we originally do not have, like winning the Americans Cup twice, or next year we are flying with the bigger solar plane around the world. We also host many international organizations back in Switzerland, and we do have many companies in Switzerland, but you see here on the list, that are really global players. And there's one route for all of this. This is education, research, and innovation. So when you look at Switzerland, we are Mickey Mouse. What you see there next to the elephant. If you believe it or not, we fit 140 times into United States. We have the same size of Massachusetts, and there are many more in parallel. GDP is also very interesting. We have the double GDP as of Massachusetts, and that's also a very interesting indication. We are small, extremely small, as mentioned, but we're also doing pretty well in terms of innovation. So just when you look at some of the rankings at the Innovation Union Scoreboard from the EU or from the other, the Global Innovation Index, there since several years we try to keep up, and it's not very easy to be up there in the front because you have many followers, but we really like to be challenged around the world. Give a few, when looking at examples in innovation, I would like to give two of very interesting projects. One is the Solar Impulse, the airplane, what I mentioned just previously, and the other one is the Human Brain Project, which is one of the, well, actually they call it, it's the next moon landing project in terms of dimension. It's extremely complex, and I think something is coming up there. But we also have innovators, surprising innovators. For example, the Velcro hooks, what you use maybe on a daily basis, was invented in Switzerland. And Schweppe, he actually manufactured the first carbonated mineral water, what he turned into a company called Schweppes. So what are the sources of innovation? We are very happy to share a few insights, what it could be. So the basis of innovation is very simple. These are the 3 points here. Well, it's also important to mention that we are an extremely small country. We have no natural resources, none. And this is a driver behind it, same as Massachusetts, no natural resources. So we have to invest in education, research, international collaboration, and finally, the science that is created really powers economy. So with this, if you look at the rankings, we are extremely happy to have one university that is not English-speaking and made it to the highest ranked non-English-speaking university, number 13. And so it has also one of the reasons that only 20% of our high schoolers go to university, and the dual education system is really driving forward. International collaboration, 57% of the researchers are non-Swiss. And this you see here, we have a lot of international collaborations around the world, and also Switzerland is quite active in there. Science powers economy. The secret is there. It has to come from the bottom up and give freedom to SMEs. You have some mechanisms to nurture startups as well, of course. But SMEs are the backbone of the industry, and all around Switzerland we have our corners for pharma, for medtech, and also for the banking industry. And what is also extremely important is our Swiss startup culture. We had around 800 startups in the last 7 years, and now an output of about 150 per year what we produce. Here in Boston, we have 2 programs. One is the Venture Leaders Program. We had already more than 270 startups coming here for a boot camp, and we also provide a very nice service for the startups if they would like to enter the US market here in Boston. We have large companies in Switzerland, but we also welcome companies, and this is one of the oldest one that has a research facility outside. So actually it's the first outside of the United States, and it's IBM. They celebrated 50 years and produced 4 Nobel laureates back in Switzerland. Okay, what's the link to United States? We spend a lot of money in R&D, and finally we are the biggest R&D spender in the United States. And sorry, there are two examples, the big Novartis campus here just in the neighborhood, and also EF, that is headquartered in Switzerland. They just opened recently. So once again, we are really a very big R&D investor in the United States, and I really hope that this will continue in the future. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Felix. Okay, next is Helmut Landes. He's Deputy Consul General from Germany. Mr. Landes.
Well, I'm afraid I'm in the situation of my Japanese colleague not to find it. Of this one, okay. This one is, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Helmut Landes. I'm Deputy Consul General, and I'm in charge of science and economic affairs. Frankly speaking, speed dating with the German economy is by mentality a big challenge for every German. So I will try to do it, and my game is to convince you that innovation in Germany is a success story, and I would like to make my date with you to know about the German economy sustainable, because it's the key for doing economy in Germany. But, sorry, this one? This one. It doesn't work. Maybe, sorry. What mouse? It's not a German computer.
This is really weird.
Oh, no.
It comes.
Wo muss ich hier dann? Okay, okay. Okay. Now, what you have to know, as I have told you, innovation is part of the DNA of the German economy. So you need a holistic approach to understand what the role of innovation is in German economy. And when I would, and for that reason, I would highlight how the German economy itself presents it these days. You see, we came out of the financial crisis quite good, and now we are in a very robust situation when it comes to unemployment rate, when it comes to growth rate. So in the end, we are doing well, and the overall position of the German economy is also an expression when it comes to the ratio of research and development expenses in Germany, which are, when we see it with our main competitors and with our global players, we are in good shape, and we are following the overall track. That means to increase the ratio of research and development. And particularly, one highlight of the German economy is its capacity to skill-intensive product innovators. We are a big manufacturing country, and naturally, as I've told you, innovation is part of the system. It's fundamental. So when you see that the average percentage of skill-intensive product innovators is increasing, this means that innovation is fundamental also for the growth rate and for future innovation and expanding the innovation market in Germany. The expression of this performance of the German economy is that we have relevant patents for the global market, and we are doing well with other competitors, particularly within the European Union. We are in a strong position, but as our colleague said, we are all on a global market, and we all need to do it with a win-and-win approach, and this you can also find in the German manufacturing market. What is essentially for innovation in Germany? It's definitely skilled workforce. We are very much honored that the Obama administration always highlights the importance of vocational training in Germany, and even they see us as a role model. And this is the strength of the German economy, that by the dual education system, by higher education, and by the overall skillness of German workforce, it's automatically one reason why innovation and invention is playing a major role for the German economy and its capacity to renovate itself. Now, in a nutshell, 10 reasons why innovation is playing well in Germany and why it might attract investments to Germany. First of all, as a leading economy, we offer a lot of chances on the global market. We are a global player and we are doing well in competition with other players, but also we have the partnership with the United States. We have a strong bridge between over the ocean, and German companies as well in the United States as in Germany are doing well. We have a high productivity, I mentioned the workforce, and we have a first-class infrastructure. We have tax incentives, we have a secure investment environment, and last but not least, the quality of life is also quite high. We attract more American students these days coming to Germany than Germans going to the United States. This is also part of the innovation climate in Germany, which is positive. So everybody is invited not just to see the Oktoberfest, but also what's going on in terms of innovation in Germany. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landes. Our final presenter tonight is Yaakov Yehuda, Consul General of Israel. Mr. Yehuda, come on up.
I love pitching. I really do. And since I recently threw out the first pitch at Fenway, an experience I shared by my colleague from Japan, I don't mind being the one to throw out the last pitch this evening. Now, as you can see, I don't really have a PowerPoint. And it's not just because I knew that Susie would come up with a winner and the rest of my colleagues here. But I decided to just forget about the PowerPoint to make a point about the secret sauce of Israel as the startup nation. For it's no coincidence that Governor Patrick went to Israel twice and not just to the UK. It's no coincidence that the whole mass challenge model has been constructed on the Israeli model. Something is happening over there. That over there, by the way, used to be 14 hours from Boston. Now it's going to be only 10 because we announced direct flights this week. That's important too. Indeed, the secret sauce in Israel as a startup nation is our people. Now, every country has people, and every country has talented people, as you heard before me. But I think our people are a bit different. And the difference in our people is a direct consequence of our unique situation. The truth is we have nothing going for us. We have an arid climate. We have no rainfall and very little fresh water. And yet we lead world innovation in drip irrigation, in desalinization, in water technologies, and in clean tech. We have a very precarious geostrategic situation. And yet we lead the world in security innovation, in cybersecurity, and in others. And the list goes on of what we don't have. We, of course, don't have any natural resources, or very few now, because we discovered gas. And so we desalinate. We harness solar energy. We even harness the waves to do more energy. Because we have no choice. Indeed, our necessity is the mother of invention, or for the purposes of this talk, of innovation. Our people are never satisfied. That's a general trait. Okay. But when it comes to business, when it comes to academia and other parts of our ecosystem, they're looking for the next best solution. And that's how you get the USB flash drive. You get drip irrigation. You get the network firewall. You get the major parts of Intel chips. And you get new kinds of fruits and veggies. It's because of that. Because we're not satisfied. And it even goes beyond that. It's because our people are ready to take the leap to fail. Because in Israel we know that if you don't fail, on the whole, you don't succeed. And so it's encouraged from a very small age. We encourage creativity, experimentation, and a critical discourse. And so we have this people, and we're left with the challenge of educating them. We have the security field, of course, one of the main components of our ecosystem, a driving force in innovation and networking. And those of you who don't know, you can, in Israel, your security background can lead to many friendships. And you will meet those friends in business, in academia. And if you need something or you want to come up with the next solution, it's just a phone call away. Not every country can say that. The government has a few roles to play here, providing incentives, attracting investment, and making sure that the innovation in the security area makes its way into the civilian market. In academia, we have low-cost education at a high quality and cutting-edge conditions, facilities, and faculty. In industry, we have a very active, very robust local VC fund activity, and of course, a multinational presence. Now, we were born in 1948 as the frontline nation. In the last decade, we have become known as the startup nation. And now we have become the cyber nation. And I assure you, in the next 10 years, we'll be calling ourselves some other nation, because we're always looking down the line. The CyberSpark industry park set up in Beersheba recently is probably the best example of that. We already have multinationals setting up centers of excellence there. Massachusetts' own EMC, IBM, Lockheed Martin, Deutsche Telekom, and a host of other companies. They have been joined by VC funds, Ben-Gurion University, incubators, and startups, and even a high school. And here I have to make a comment parenthetically. In Israel, the startup nation ecosystem chain begins in high school. And today, if you're a talented high school student, you can do a full matriculation in cyber security. We're the only country in the world that can make that claim, as far as I know. And so I'm talking about a population not of 40 million, but of 8 million. But I'm also talking about a country which has more startups per capita than any country on the face of the earth. Now, Massachusetts knows this well. I mentioned Mass Challenge. 200 plus Israeli-founded companies account for $6 billion of revenue into the coffers of the Commonwealth, which translates into about 3% of the annual GDP. That is thousands of jobs. So Governor Patrick must have known something when he went over to Israel twice. I encourage you to discover the secret as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yahuda. How about a round of applause for all our diplomats? Well done. Really well done. All right, so we have about 10 minutes left for questions. Sir, in the back.
Good evening. I'm Paul Wiseman, and I'm the headmaster of the British International School here in Boston. You can imagine that my focus is creating young innovators, creative people who'll go out into the world as global citizens to change the world, make a better world. So during this evening, I've been looking out for commentary about what we're doing with the source and the sustainability of innovation, which is our young people. Bless you, Mr. Yehuda, you mentioned high school in the last one. So I'm going to invite anyone to share with us what one initiative your country is taking in the state education system to create and sustain innovation for your country through the young people, which is your best resource.
Mr. Yehuda, why don't you start?
Does this just pick up? Does this pick up like that? Yeah. Great. Well, as I mentioned the cybersecurity area where young people have a lot of opportunities to develop now, and it happens, of course, right before they have their mandatory military service. But I think if you go earlier in life, I have two adult children, so I saw them growing up and see how they were encouraged. I mentioned encouraging children to fail. And what I saw as they were growing up in the school system, not just encouraging them to fail or to take the chance to fail, but also to make them understand that that is only the first step to the success and finding that new solution to a challenge. In Israel, our classes are very large, unfortunately. Our teachers are not paid higher salaries compared with other countries. But I think there is a commitment both on the part of educators and parents, in addition to the government, which makes education kind of a family thing. You add to that the needs of the ecosystem industry, which is totally plugged in all the time. So what happens in the school system from junior high school particularly onward, and you see how the ecosystem expands, the innovation begins actually in junior high school, and there's encouragement at the societal level, I think, to include them and make them as successful as they can be.
Any others want to take a crack at that question? Yes.
Yes, I think it's a very, very important question because it's the timing of the education in the high school is extremely, how to say in that sense, critical, because afterwards you're going to start many directions. So you could study abroad, you can also study at a university in your own country. But what I think it's very important, what you could or should implement in the high school itself is when you look at the possibilities to have more international teachers, if this is possible. For example, in Switzerland we have an extremely high number of international teachers, and it also gives among the high schoolers a good understanding that there's not only the nation itself, but there's a border, and life flourishes beyond the borders. So that's definitely one that also goes with learning different languages. So I think that's also a very important asset what you could bring in there. As mentioned, and my colleague from Germany mentioned the same thing, it's a dual education system, and it's maybe not really what you would like to hear. It's also a system that decides or has a possibility in place to choose for the student or for the young generation whether they are fit for the high school or even fitter for an alternative education path, so apprenticeship. And you will be surprised, and I mention it quickly, 20%, but actually it's 19% of the Swiss go to high school. So you will ask yourself, what are the other 80%? So they have a very decent education more on the practical side. And if you look the last decades. And same is in Germany and in Austria. It's one of the very strong foundations what we have in our economies because we have all these skilled people.
Ambassador.
Thank you. I just like to add one point about the high school education in Korea. I think the South Korea, Japan, and in China, we have a very high level of achievement in science and mathematics. So I think it's a very good signal for innovation in our countries. But in Asia, we need more language education for English, for more international cooperation and more scientific research collaboration. So Korea has a very strong emphasis on the English education in high school. And I would like to say that the Korea, we have the number 3 international students in the United States after China and India. So we like to have more cooperation and international education. Thank you.
Thank you. Question?
Everyone back.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. This is not a setup. I'm following my education colleague here. I represent the higher education community, more specifically Northeastern University, which happens to be number 42 ranked research university in U.S. News and World Report's number 1 cooperative education program in the world, ranked by U.S. News and World Report's in 2014 edition. I, too, am interested in learning a little bit more about what opportunities exist within your respective offices as international recruitment for specifically undergraduate and mostly graduate students has increased significantly, particularly in the Boston area, as Ms. Kitchens mentioned, even in England. It's significantly on the rise here in the United States. And what opportunities might exist within your respective offices for students that may actually be citizens of your respective countries?
Well, I may be the first to answer because indeed we have put some program in place with your university, with Northeastern University. We love very much your co-op programs, and we want it to be used more by French companies, including especially small and medium companies, which are sometimes very innovative, but are sometimes also less attractive for young people who prefer to go to the really big corporations. And so we've put your teams in contact with our Public Bank for Investment, because this Public Bank for Investment has a portfolio of small and medium innovative companies who are looking for skilled workforce, and this has already produced results. I think that when the governor of Massachusetts came to France last September, we were able to announce that already something like 20 students had found co-ops in those small and medium companies in France, and that's really something we want to see increase over the time. Thank you.
Yeah, question.
Thanks. I am Margaret Czelapowski. I am the president of the Massachusetts branch of the American Association of University Women. Hence my question to all our presenters, whether any of these offers of collaboration and innovation are geared specifically towards women, empowering women, and making sure that women of all our countries have a chance to collaborate and develop their skills.
I think I'm going to answer that, being the only woman on the panel here. Thank you for the question. Yes, similar to here in the United States, in the United Kingdom, we're very concerned about ensuring we get more girls into STEM subjects. So there's been a big push on that, about making teachers aware of the need to pitch STEM subjects to girls, to make it accessible to them, to make it seem inviting to them, and to tackle these many ingrained social and cultural barriers that have prevented girls from going into STEM cells previously. So it's going to take a while for it to filter through, but there are initiatives from government at all levels of education to try and improve the gender balance in STEM cell, and hopefully that will then improve other statistics as well.
Yeah, I'd actually also like to, in the Israeli context, respond to the question. In the ecosystem in Israel that I described earlier, you will notice that the conveyor belt, as it were, very much begins at the lower levels before military age. And when we're talking about junior high school essentially it is not a competition of gender, but of the best minds. And therefore you will see, I mean, you can see in pictures, you'll see it all over the place, that women, the best women, will compete on an equal footing with the best men for the best jobs.
Sir.
I have a question for Mr. Yahuda. So I work for the Swiss Consulate, actually, in innovation and entrepreneurship. We work a lot with startups, Swiss startups trying to enter the US market. And they love to come to Boston because the concentration of VCs is amazing here. So they come also for fundraising. And when we talk to VCs, they are kind of reluctant of investing outside the US. And they're telling us that the Israeli model is the model that has to be applied. So startup companies from Israel keep their research and development in Israel and have their management over here. My question to you is then, why do you think that other countries do not adopt the same model?
Well, to be fair, I think you're going to have to ask the question to the rest of the panelists and not to me. But earlier in my talk, I mentioned some of the figures about the 200 plus Israeli companies been so involved in boosting the Massachusetts economy. Israel, it's kind of another example of Israel looking for the necessity of Israel because of our location and situation, we obviously have to reach out much further beyond oceans to market our products, to seek grants and so on. And so what we're seeing here, exactly as you described it, a startup will kind of emerge in Israel and then grow bigger, and one or two things will happen. Either it will be gobbled up by a major American or European corporation, and that's essentially the end of it, but they're really rich. But more often than not, they will set up, as you said, the marketing arm in Europe or the United States. Now, since we're speaking in Boston, maybe one more sentence about Boston. Boston is becoming increasingly attractive for many reasons for Israeli entrepreneurs. The direct flights, no doubt, will add to that. The reason is obvious. It's the ecosystem here of academia, hospitals, and innovation enterprises. Why other countries don't adopt that model, I don't know, but I have a sense that the expansion of Mass Challenge will essentially bring other countries into that model sooner rather than later.
Well, I would like to add, in Germany, once in a while we are a little bit slow. As I've explained, speed dating is not our first quality, but we are sustainable and we follow suit what's really efficient going on the markets. And for that reason, we follow a little bit the good experience of Israel and other countries. And next year, we will also establish an accelerator in Boston, next to New York and the Silicon Valley. And this shows the importance, and we are here also to learn a little bit, and startup environment is essential. As I've explained to you, in Germany, what startups do here as a sort of outsourcing of brain from universities and companies happens in Germany in medium-sized companies and in big companies. But we see the importance of the startup scenery, and I'm really looking forward to foster and support the local startup economy and the environment, but with the objective also to start a sort of brain circulation, bringing startup ideas and innovation back to Germany, because it should, as I have said, always a win situation for both Massachusetts and also for Germany.
Thank you. I think we've come to the end of the questions, and now it's my pleasure to wrap up tonight's event. A few remarks from Ken Vakovic. He's the president of the British American Business Council of New England. Please welcome Ken. Ken.
Thank you, George, and thank all of the consuls. Obviously, a well put together program by each of you, a well represented discussion of your countries. And I think we should change the name of this program to Innovation Through Collaboration, because collaboration certainly is the watchword tonight. George, thank you for what you did tonight, and you made the trains run on time, which is important, and thank all of you for coming out and joining us tonight. I think we all learned a lot. Ursula is bringing out some gifts to you. I guarantee you the value of this is well within the policy limits of each of your governments. And I'd like to thank Ursula for all the work she's done. Now, the British American Business Council of New England every year has a Christmas party. It's the first Friday of December. It's at the Harvard Club. Drinking starts at 11:30 and ends whenever. And today, for putting your cards out front, I think you understood there's going to be 2 free tickets given to people who are here today. And the first one is Lisa Thompson of Saltair Foundation. Lisa here? Is Lisa here? Oh, you don't have to come up, just as long as you're here. And the other one is Jeremy Roy from the Newmark Grubb Knight Frank Company. Is Jeremy here? Okay. Come over to the British table later and you'll get this. The last thing I want to do is point out that on February 4th in this room, a Greater Business Alliance of New England will have our annual meeting, which this year will feature a social media workshop that's going to start at 5 o'clock. And our speakers this year are going to be Dr. Michael Klein, who's a professor at the Fletcher School at Tufts, and Michael Goodman, who's been with us before from UMass Dartmouth, speaking on, respectively, the international and the Massachusetts economy, followed by a networking evening, which I think is what happens next. So we'll call this to a close, and I invite you all to have a little bit of a time networking, and thank you all for coming. Very good.
Well done. I think we are in a beer or something. Definitely.
Thanks to all.
Good job. Not bad for our first experience. Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
You did throw out the ball at Fenway?
Yes, I did. I saw the video.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Okay, fine. Good job. Ready to enjoy this? So I can do PowerPoint. If I make some, I can
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Are you going to wear your put your shirt on there? Thank you.
Oh,
well.
Nee, aber wir sehen uns am Samstag. Das ist doch alles. Ist da nichts
Like here's the Michel morning. Don't you like it?